Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. I'm glad you're here. I'm sure you all have heard about this looming railroad strike that we're coming up on here real soon. What's going on, about 150,000 of the union workers that work for the various railroads are going up against a possible strike coming Friday at 1 minute after midnight, Friday morning. Now, what their grievances appear to be, from what I understand, is working conditions, working hours, and those are serious things that need to be addressed with the workers. There's about 12 unions at play that comprise all of these railroad workers. Now, if they do go on strike, which they have the right to do on Friday, this would be very crippling to the U.S. economy. In fact, some estimates, you might hear this number in the news, that it could cost the economy approximately $2 billion a day. Now, that number, understand this, that's not that somebody is paying $2 billion every day. What that is that's lost economic revenue in the amount of about $2 billion a day. So it's not that the money's being spent, it's just that potential revenue is being lost. Now, as far as what can be done, some people might say, well, we'll just put everything on a truck. Well, it would take about 500,000 additional trucks per day, almost 500,000 trucks per day, to fill that gap that the U.S. railroads fill right now. And that's just not possible. You've seen, and truckers have done a great job, but there's been a lot of truckers that have left the industry. There's been a lot of truckers that have resigned, and of course the fuel prices for diesel and the shortages for the exhaust fluid. I mean, it's just going to drive up the price of things. Now, some of the major goods that are shipped on the railroad include coal and petrochemicals. Some agriculture, grains, and a lot of automobiles. Okay, a lot of automobiles. Now, the railroad was instrumental in helping free up the supply chain crisis that we just have come out of, where you had all of the container ships on the West Coast. Of course, they offload those containers and they're loading them onto rail cars, and then the rail cars come, north, south, and east from the West Coast, distributing the goods. If you don't have those rail cars anymore, well, all of those iPhones and refrigerators and microwaves are not going to get from Los Angeles to Boston, unless you're bringing a container ship up on the East Coast. Now, there is a possible alternative to the railroad besides looking at the trucks. The United States does have an extensive inland waterway system, but it has limitations as well. Now, a lot of you might not be familiar with what the inland waterway is, but it is a mostly man-made canal that runs from St. Marks, Florida, all the way across Louisiana, the Texas Gulf Coast, down to Brownsville. There are a lot of inland barges that transit up and down this area. Primarily, it's for petroleum. There is some cargo that goes that way, but again, it's limited because it only stretches from, like I said, the Florida Panhandle over to the tip of Texas. Now, we do have some major river systems in this country. Number one, everybody knows about the Mississippi River. Ohio is another. It's another busy waterway that transports goods up and down across the midsection and from the east to the midsection part of the country. There's some other smaller river tributaries like the Arkansas and the Missouri, the Tennessee, the Tombigbee. But again, these are more centrally located. You're not going to do any river freight across the Rocky Mountains, meaning you can't go east and west to east with freight on the water that way. It's just not possible. And of course, it's limited. Like I said, a lot of these rivers are not deep draft rivers, so they're just not suitable for a lot of transport of anything other than hopper barges, maybe some tank barges. Like I said, a lot of grain goes up and down well, primarily down the Mississippi River from the Plain States down to export terminals down in Louisiana. A lot of petrochemicals and such on the Ohio River as well. But that's it's not a long-term fix. It's an alternative route. But again, you've got to get these goods from their offloading seaports on the West Coast to a river port, and that is going to rely upon getting it on a railroad. The trucks just cannot make up the difference. There's a lot of people that think the government's going to step in if there is a strike, because any prolonged strike is just going to be detrimental to the economy. And I think everybody agrees that, because you won't be getting your goods. Now, we've had railroad strikes in the past. I think the most recent one was in 1992, I believe it was, and it lasted for a couple of days, and they were able to work some things out, and the Bush administration at the time did get involved. It possibly will happen again, because I think even the Potato Head administration understands that they can't have a disruption to the supply chain of this magnitude, because there is really no viable way to pick up the slack that the railroads provide. I have friends and I know people that work for the railroads, and they do a great job, and I'm not taking their grievances lightly. They should be considered. They should have good working conditions. They shouldn't be forced to work long hours when they've already worked long hours, and they shouldn't be working under any intimidation. Now, these are some of the things that I've heard that there is the basis of their complaints, if you will. So I completely understand that. Nobody should have to work under those conditions. This is coming up. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. You guys be sure and like and subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up. Watch this video next for more information.